This is your boy Ty Asbury with Off the Top Rope Monday night, live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, presented by SixPackCoverage.com. It is the Off the Top Rope Full Pack Week, episode number 1. We ref it up. She referees in Lucha, VaVOOM, Wrestling Pro Wrestling, Hoodslam. The list goes on and on and on. This extravagant lady is putting the work in, reffing it up in pro wrestling. Scarlette Donovan is live on Off the Top Rope Monday night. So this is going to be a sizzling 1, 2, 3.
The Ropes Media. Tyrone Asbury. Tyrone Asbury. Every chance you get to hear us, you clear us. It's the time on the radio. My opinion's my opinion. Every time you hear me now moving out, they're on the stereos. Every podcast live.
What's up, everybody? It's Monday night. It's a full packed Monday night, presented by SixPackCoverage.com. As the way we always do it on the ropes, it is going to be sizzling tonight. Now, like I said in the opening, we're going to ref it up tonight because my live guest joining me, I call her, she's the ring boss. I got to give her a bow down for this one. Scarlette Donovan is in the house. Scarlette, what's up?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show. Like I said, we've been talking weeks in advance about having you on the show. I'm excited for this because by looking at what you're doing in wrestling, I mean, the first thing that jumped out is that you're all over the place, reffing it up here and there and getting in people's faces if you have to, which I love. And girl, you're doing everything. I'm loving it.
Well, thank you. That's certainly the goal, is to try and kind of be everywhere. So I take that as quite the compliment when somebody says something like that to me. So thank you.
Well, you're extremely welcome. And I know that, matter of fact, you know, I don't do this a lot on the show, so I'm going to pull it up because I know you had a super busy weekend. And when you see this graphic, it looked like it was a fun show. And I noticed you had a busy day. It was yesterday. So, like, I was like, man, she's just doing her thing. So, everyone watching the show live, how was this show?
The show was really a lot of fun. I hadn't worked for that promotion before, so I got to drive up to Lancaster and check it out. They had a great venue there. The crowd was awesome. They really enjoyed the show that we put on, and I got to work with some great talent. So it was overall a wonderful weekend.
Now, when you knew you were going to do this show, now I know there's a Lancaster, PA. I had no idea, and people don't get mad that there was a Lancaster, California. Did you always know that? I had no idea.
Well, I did know that there was a Lancaster. I've been there before. I've kind of traveled all around California a little bit. So I did know about it and knew where it was. It was about a 2-hour drive from where I am down in Orange County. But there's not a lot of wrestling in Orange County. So usually anywhere that I drive, it tends to be at least an hour to 2 hours, depending on that LA traffic.
Now, I want to talk about this because you brought up a good thing about Orange County. You said it's not really a big wrestling scene. By looking around, and did you see maybe there's a reason why, or it's just not a big wrestling, place?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Actually, we've kind of, some of the people that I hang out with in the wrestling business, we've kind of been talking a little bit about that and wondering why there isn't a larger scene out here. It's kind of unclear if it's like a venue issue. Sometimes venues don't necessarily want to run wrestling shows because they can get a little bit rowdier. Or if it's just that there isn't necessarily a fan base for it. We know that we have that set fan base in LA because we've proven that we can run, really packed shows out there, and you have like great promotions like PWG that are always going to draw, and then you get those fans that will branch out to the other smaller promotions. So I think maybe a lot of it is just that we don't necessarily know the market out here, and it's hard to take that chance on a show that might not do well because those LA fans might not want to drive all the way down to Orange County, whereas us Orange County fans, since we don't get it down here, we're willing to drive further up to LA to see our wrestling.
Now, being in the business, like when you go to, Orange County, place A, B, C, and D, being in wrestling, do you have to prepare or just get a good idea of how this location is going to be? Because you said fans can be different, this area or that area, or you just don't have that mentality. You just go do it.
I think my bigger concern is I like to know like the area of the venue, because I want to know like where I'm going to be able to park, and how far I'm going to have to walk, and like what kind of neighborhood it's in, mostly because I'm a female and a lot of times I'm going to these shows by myself, or if I know that the neighborhood's not one that I feel comfortable walking around, and then I try to carpool with another group of wrestlers, so at least I have a group of people around me that are escorting me to the venue type thing. But as far as the fan base goes, it can really be so different from show to show. A lot of times if you have promotions that you work for regularly, then you kind of get to know that fan base and they get to know you as well. So those become almost a little bit more fun because you can kind of play around with the fans. They can kind of play around with you a little bit. But a lot of it is just going out there and kind of feeling out the crowd and stuff during the first couple matches and getting an idea and going on from there.
Well, you said, of course, traveling this place, being careful, being a lady, but from all the work I've seen you do, like getting in people's faces, I think you can duke it up and whoop some ass. So, I mean, they won't mess with the ring boss. So, I'm sure you can take care of yourself. But I know we all know how the world is today. Being even a male, you got to be careful. And I can understand where you're coming from. And like I said, I'm glad you're just being smart and just keeping safe and just making us all proud and being, one of the best referees today. So, doing her thing, reffing it up. So.
Thank you.
Now, you, of course, did the show, and like I said, you got a busy work schedule, and I had to ask you, how do you do it all? Wrestling, working, just prepare for matches, and like how does the one human, Scarlette Donovan, how do you do it?
I just don't sleep. Honestly, I do sleep probably a little bit less than I should, but it's all about just being very kind of careful and fluid with your schedule. One other thing about wrestling is it's not always a like schedule in advance type of thing. A lot of things kind of happen last minute. So you have to be able to be kind of really flexible with your schedule and hop on opportunities when they come along. So that's kind of the basis of me being able to do all this stuff, is just being really careful with my schedule. I rely on my calendar and my phone. If it didn't remind me to do things, I would forget my entire life. So
now, do you use because I mean, technology is so advanced, it's like crazy. Do you use like a calendar in your phone or a calendar on your fridge? Because there's just so much out there you can use to just keep your schedule going.
That's funny that you gave those two examples, because those are exactly the two things that I use. I have a calendar on my phone that is like, one whole screen. I to my screen and it's like a little widget thing and it has my whole calendar there. So it's like right at my fingertips. And that one's nice because it gives me reminders. I can put in all my details, the locations of where I need to go, and keep everything organized that way. And then I also have a huge magnet on my fridge where I write everything down. And that way, like every day when I'm in my kitchen, eating breakfast, that I can be like, oh yeah, I'm glad I looked at this, because now I can remember all of these things that I have to do today.
Now, when you're getting ready for a show, and of course I always talk about food. Everybody knows I talk about food. I mean, who doesn't love food? Right. What's like your favorite food to get ready for? Like when you're getting ready for a show, like what's like that one food that's like straight, like to the core, adrenaline, energy, like where you have a good roughing it up night?
I usually tend to eat fairly light on show days. I am in there doing a lot of activity, and sometimes, you always get those like pre-show jitters and pre-show nerves. And so I tend to eat like oatmeal in the mornings. That's my real go-to. I have oatmeal, put like some almond butter in there, some coconut flakes, and yeah, right. I know, and that really will set me up for the day. And then if my show's later, then I'll usually do like a protein shake or something really light to kind of carry me through. And then afterwards, it's all about the junk food, right?
Right. Now, we're going to have a little bit of wrestling and food now. I like my protein shakes, and I think we're going to go a little bit of health fitness. I mean, if Scarlette can bust it out. People watching the show live, what would you recommend for a good protein shake that nobody's know about, and a good snack? If you would tell anybody, what would you tell the audience?
Oh, I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I'm really real bad about my nutrition type stuff. And so what I do is there's like a website, it's called Gainful. and you go in and you like put in all your information and they make a little protein powder for you. And so that's what I use because it made it very easy for me. I didn't have to think about like, oh, I need this or that to, fit the things that I need. And they give you like a little nutritionist that you can talk to. And so she's been super helpful and kind of given me some great ideas about the things that I need to eat in order to fuel my body for all of this very physical activity that I do. And then I'm a huge like protein bar person, and I'm always like trying different ones to see which one tastes the most like a candy bar.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, we all know in wrestling, traveling can be just crazy. And like you said, sometimes a show, they may need somebody to show like a last minute thing. Like for you prepared, like, can it be a good thing or bad thing if somebody needs you at a show at the last minute? How do you prepare for that? For people who maybe want to get into the business, like how would you pretty much educate them? And you get contacted, hey, Scarlette, can you come to this show, last minute? Like, how would you prepare for that, or can you prepare for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that always being prepared is really a great asset or skill to have when you're in the wrestling business in general. There's kind of a saying of like, you always bring your gear or always have your gear with you. So my wrestling bag is always packed. I always make sure that I have clean gear. My bag actually lives in my car. As a referee, like it's important for us to look, neat and tidy. And so I don't ever want my clothes to be wrinkled. So I have like a garment bag that just hangs in my car all the time. And I just always keep all of my gear, my clean gear packed and ready to go in my car. So even if I'm out somewhere and I get a call like, hey, we need you at the show, then I already have my stuff. As long as I am location wise can make it there in time, then, I'm ready to go. Something else that I do, because I'm like a crazy overachiever, I'll usually kind of scan through like social media or different outlets to try and know about the shows that are going on in my area. And so that way, if I'm not already booked, then a lot of times I'll like hit them up the day of and be like, hey, do you guys happen to need a ref? Like, I can show up, for the show if you need somebody. And I've actually gotten work that way as well. So I try to always be prepared. I'm very, very lucky at this point that my schedule does tend to fill up fairly quickly in advance. So I'm usually booked like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is awesome. I'm very grateful for that. But if I have that rare day where I'm not already booked, then I'm usually out kind of scouring to see if I can get a booking.
I'm going to say here on the top rope tonight, because this is actually, like I said, full packed week. And if you're coming up in wrestling and you want a full packed way to do things, do what this lady's doing. She's on social media asking, hey, you need a ref for this show, that show. My guest tonight, Scarlette Donovan, is just nailing it down and how to get your name out there in wrestling. So you get an education from her. So you better be watching the freaking show, because I personally love that, because social media, I think, I don't know if it's good or bad, the way networking is in wrestling now. Because like you said, you're on social media and people's emails are right there. And I guess, is that the way to go today in wrestling?
I think so, because that's, as you said, that's really how a lot of the marketing is done in the wrestling business. A lot of these promotions, they don't even have websites. They just have their social media pages, so that's how we get in contact with them. So usually when I'm trying to contact a promotion, I'll try and first see if they do have like an email address or a website or, some way that they prefer me to contact them. And then I'll send them an email, and then I'll hit up their different social media outlets, because sometimes they'll be more active on Twitter or more active on Instagram. So I usually kind of like blanket all of those things with my little cover letter of like, here, this is who I am. I'd love to work for you type thing. And I just tend to be as persistent as I can, hopefully without being annoying.
Well, like I said, if you got your cover letter, I call you the ring boss, but I don't know if you're going to put that, but they'd be like, ring boss. Shit. So I'm just saying. Now, Scarlette, there's in wrestling, this area is doing this type of wrestling, and in terms of getting fans in, and I know California is huge, and you know all about it. Like, if you had to take a step back and look at the California wrestling scene here, and maybe take it to last year to here we are now, 2022. How do you think it looks for wrestling fans in California?
I think that it's looking really exciting. It was really hard when COVID hit and kind of shut everything down. It made it really difficult for a lot of these promotions. So a lot of promotions have kind of fallen by the wayside. They weren't able to continue when they weren't able to run those shows. So I think that right now that things are starting to hopefully get back on track and open back up, and we're starting to see those larger crowds. We really have a great fan base that is kind of looking for some of these larger shows and these bigger promotions to kind of fill those holes. So I think it's a really, really exciting time for our, SoCal fan base, because we're starting to see some of those, promotions sprout up a little bit. And I think, and hopefully the coming months to a year, then we'll have some of these promotions that are able to bring us the wrestling that we were used to seeing kind of before the pandemic shut everything down.
Now, we all know how referees, you guys see everything. I mean, from the competitors to the fans. If you're reffing a match and you look out, over the top rope or wherever, you see the fans. In your opinion, how do you know that the fans are enjoying themselves and they know you're doing your job? Because God forbid if a ref, doesn't count fast enough, you know how that goes. How do you know that they're enjoying themselves, or sometimes being in the heat of action is kind of like hard to tell?
Usually it's not that hard to tell. Fans tend to be very vocal. Wrestling fans tend to be very vocal about, how they're feeling. So they usually let you know. So my goal out there is to not have them make comments to me. I never want them to be kind of making comments about me or yelling things about me, because that means that they're not paying attention to the wrestlers, right? And the whole goal of this is to watch the wrestlers and to watch the story that they're trying to tell. So I try my best to complement that without drawing attention to myself. So I can usually tell that a crowd is really enjoying themselves when they're really excited and they're popping for all of the big moves that the wrestlers are hitting. I'm in there myself, and I'm seeing these things and I'm like, wow, that was amazing. And then you get the crowd behind you, like affirming your, what you've just seen, and you're like, wow, yeah, they're into this. This is great. So those are really awesome moments when you get that whole crowd really engaged in what the wrestlers are doing in there.
Now, do you think in wrestling that we all know wrestlers, they can bring something different to the table? I mean, new move, new gear, promo. Do you think that's the same case for like referees, or it can be, or it's really not, for as far as referees bringing something different to wrestling? Or is that something like, what would you like to do in that aspect?
I know. I feel like that's kind of a difficult question, because as the referee, we're not necessarily the focus of the match, and it's very true that a great referee can really complement a match and can really help the wrestlers tell the story that they're trying to tell, and a bad referee can make a great match maybe a little mediocre. But so I feel like I don't want to have my own. I don't want to have something that's going to take away from the wrestlers or what's going on. I don't want to have like my own gimmick that's going to, draw attention to myself. My whole goal in there is to just look professional. So I guess that would be, my attitude in there is I want to be as professional as I can. And my job is to uphold the rules of the match and, maintain the integrity of the match. And so that's kind of my goal with my attitude in there, I guess.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Ropes Live tonight on this Monday night, of course. Now, if you want to ask Scarlette a question, we always got the Ropes comment section here on the screen up there. So ask her a question, where she's going to be next. Definitely reach out to her. Like I said, live here on Off the Top Rope on this Monday night, because we're reffing it up here on the Ropes. Now, we all know that we all change. I mean, and we like to all look, being positive in ourselves. Now, if you could probably say maybe 2 or 3 things, how do you think you've, progressed as a referee probably in the last like 2 years? Like, what's something that you really seen that's changed about you, that you really say, hey, I'm really kicking ass in this?
I think probably the biggest change is just my overall attitude and presence in there. When you watch me in the ring, I know it's kind of hard to believe, but I tend to be kind of a very timid and quiet person, and very reserved. And I know that when I first started training, my referee coach, Jeremy Marcus, I feel like he had doubts that I would ever be able to be successful in this business as a referee, because I was just like very quiet and like I didn't want to get in the way, and I was just like in the little corner and kept to myself type thing. And so he was very, very helpful in kind of helping me bring me out of that shell and, helping me kind of take on that different persona once I got in the ring. So all of my coaches, really, I feel very lucky. I train out of Santino Brothers in Los Angeles. And my coach Chaos, he was also instrumental in that, because he would do like matches with us, and he would just play like a total heel and like get in our faces as the referee and like scream at us. And he gave me the confidence to, yell back at him, because he just kind of ingrained that in me. And it's like, well, if I can get in Chaos's face, then I can get in anybody's face. And I also train at another school up in Chatsworth called Millennium Wrestling Academy. And my coach there, Ray Rosas, is also awesome. And he really, really helped me understand my role as the referee, and really kind of also bring me out of my shell, and teach me how to really kind of support the wrestlers in there, and help be a part of the match as well.
Now, I hear a lot of really cool things about. I've had guests on the show that talk about Santino Brothers, what they do, in that organization, wrestling ref, you train in there. And if somebody in your area wants to get into wrestling, why would you tell them this is the place to go to, whether you're going to be a wrestler or a rep? I hear a lot of things about, Santino Brothers.
Yeah, Santino Brothers is awesome. I feel so lucky that I lived, that I lived close enough to attend that school. It is a little bit of a drive for me, again, because it's in LA and everything is far away from where I live, but that's fine. It's certainly worth it. And I feel so lucky that they made their training so open to me. When I started doing my referee training, I actually started in 2020. And I started in January of 2020, and I got like a couple classes in with them, and then everything got shut down. And so my coach, Jeremy Marcus, was awesome. And he took all of us kind of under his wing. And he said, if you want to be a referee, then I will do my best to try and train you while all this is going on. So he would do weekly Zoom classes with us, where he'd make us do like blow up drills. We were doing like burpees over classes and like deck cards workouts, which at the time I hated. But when we were finally able to get in the ring, then I was in excellent shape, and I was very grateful for it at that point. But then he would also do match studies with us. So we'd watch matches and do everything like that. So I really got a good understanding of what a referee does, and an understanding of the rules and all of those things that you need in order to be successful as a referee. And then once we were able to open up our school again at Santino's, then they let me come into all of their classes. I was there 4 days a week for 5 to 6 hours a day. I actually did the beginner wrestling course and the intermediate wrestling course, and I learned all of the moves. And then I would referee for all of the other guys while they were doing drills. And so I just spent every moment that I could at that dojo. And I'm so grateful that they made all of that available to me. And I was able to progress really, really quickly and get to where I am today because of all of the great training that they offered to me. So that is an excellent school. I certainly recommend that. The other school that I go to, Millennium Wrestling Academy, again, up in Chatsworth. So much further away from me, but I love that I have two schools in the vicinity that I can go to, because it gives me the opportunity to work with different people and also work with different coaches. And so my coach up there, they have a number of coaches. The coach that I work with, again, is Ray Rosas, and he has been very, very helpful. He's an excellent wrestler, an excellent wrestling coach, and he's really taken my referee skills to the next level as far as understanding match structure and things like that. So I certainly recommend both schools. They're both wonderful, and I'm very lucky to be part of both of them.
Everybody, aspiring wrestling talent in California, take notes, go to these places, and then definitely check them out and get your name out there, if you want to step in the square circle or put on, of course, the referee shirt. Now, you, of course, have had a lot of moments in wrestling, certain talent driving you crazy, they get in your face, you get nerves, and just like total chaos. So this clip I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna see if you remember these matches too, but I'm actually gonna pull these up. So I know, the second one, I'm gonna say you're like, dude, don't even try it. So like I got that from the one with the blue turnbuckle pads. Now the first one, of course, with the red ropes, you're just like, he's like, all right, I'm screwed. I'll stop. So do you remember these moments?
I do, actually. I remember both of them. The one with the red ropes, that was one of my kind of first matches that's actually at my school. Those are some alumni from my school that were coming in and doing like these great kind of practice matches that we would record and we would like do like live on YouTube and stuff. But it was so that all of the referees and the extra talent that was kind of coming up, we got to learn how to like run actual shows. And the gentleman wrestler that has his fist up, he's a great training partner of mine. I always love getting in the ring with him. He does an excellent job of kind of getting in my face, and we kind of play back and forth off of each other very, very well. And then the other clip over there, this is from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And the wrestler that is giving me the stare down is, of course, Effie. And he is another great wrestler to be in there who kind of really plays around with you a lot and will give you a lot of stuff to play off of. You know, some wrestlers enjoy interacting with the ref a lot, and I always get a kick out of that because it's fun to, you know, interact with them in that way, depending on the match that they're having. And then other times it's a more serious match, and my job is just to stay out of the way and facilitate the rules.
But I saw that clip. I had to bring up because you're like, don't do it. So like that's fine. That's like a legendary clip to me, and it just shows right there. You love what you do. You're great at what you do, and the talent they don't mess with you. So, like I said, ring ball style. So, but I want to back up and ask you, when you said you did some, of course, Zoom virtual training, how hard is that? Because I know you're sitting in front of a screen. I know you probably wanted to get in the ring so bad. Like, how hard was that? Because it's just like, that's the way the world was with the pandemic.
Yeah, it was really difficult. But on the other hand, it also was really helpful during that time. You know, you're kind of going through like this crazy time in the world, and it kind of gave me something to like hold on to and look forward to. And it was a little like weird and awkward on the one sense, because we would do videos of like record videos of ourselves, like doing different admonishments or like ringing the bell or, you know, doing different things like that. And then we would have to play the videos and like watch ourselves, which is always weird. But my coach, Jeremy, would give us, you know, great feedback. And then we would do match study, which is something that you should do anyway. So it just gave us an opportunity and kind of forced us to sit down and actually watch matches and talk about what the referee was doing. And I think a lot of times when you're not necessarily forced to do that, then you may not take the time to do that, especially in a class setting like that, where you have your mentor breaking down each match, you know, pausing, answering the questions that you have, pointing out what the referee's doing. So even though it was kind of weird at the time, I think it was like instrumental in me being able to get in the ring so quickly once we were able to open things back up and really kind of hit the ground running. And there were a couple times during the pandemic that Jeremy was able to find us like a ring that we could rent a little bit of time in on like a private basis. And, you know, we would all get COVID tested and, you know, wear masks and take all the precautions and stuff. But he would get, you know, a couple wrestlers to come in and they would do practice matches and do different drills for us. And so we would actually get to practice refereeing. So that was another thing to kind of look forward to. Maybe once a month or once every couple months, we'd actually be able to get in the ring and actually put into action the things that we had been watching on our Zoom classes.
Yeah, because I would think like when you're actually in the actual class setting, all the students are on the ring and, you know, you got to ask a question. Hey, I'm right here. Like you said, being Zoom virtual, you know, you got to put somebody on pause. And we know how streaming can be. The person is like paused for like ever. The streaming can be crazy sometimes. So I see what you mean, where it's probably better in person. But at the end of the day, you got it done and it worked.
Yeah, definitely. I know we took what could have been a situation that just completely halted, you know, any sort of training that I would be able to get and really flipped it around and made it really, really useful and something that I am happy that I got to experience, I guess.
Now, Scarlette, we have, of course, 3 wonderful organizations that you know a lot about, and they're your main like promotions where, you know, of course, like I said, Ring Boss Mode. If you could look at these 3 places, what's probably the funnest thing about reffing in each and every one of these places? Yeah, I think like one thing.
You know, actually, all 3 of these promotions, they are kind of, I would say a little bit more laid back. A lot of them don't have a true like wrestling crowd. I also referee regularly for Game Changer Wrestling, and I do LA Fights when they're in town. And that is where you go and get like your true wrestling crowd there, where they're there for the action and for, you know, all of those very talented wrestlers. And here at Hoodslam, Hoodslam, Lucha, VaVOOM, and WrestlingProWrestling, we have those amazing talent that come and they get to kind of explore their kind of sillier side a little bit and expose not wrestling people that aren't necessarily familiar with wrestling, they get to expose it to the sport in a really fun and exciting way. So I really enjoy that. As a referee, it also gives me the chance to kind of work on my improv skills a little bit more, because like at places like Wrestling Pro Wrestling, we have wrestlers that are actually wrestling in huge costumes. And so you kind of have to be able to think on your feet. And if one part of the costume falls off, you have to know how to play it off and, fix it type thing. So those places have also been very helpful in teaching me skills that I'm able to carry over to the more serious promotions that I work at.
When I first saw, I got my notes ready for the show, and I heard of Lucha, VaVOOM. I was like, oh, I love it, because it's just like it's different. And I went on their website, and it's just really it's different. I mean, just like the characters with the different attire. It's something. If I was in town, I'd be like, I would check that out. So for me to think that about them, they must be doing their job, because it looks completely different in a good way.
Yeah, it's unlike any other wrestling experience out there, because they pair wrestling with like burlesque dancers and comedians and kind of all of these other acts. And as I mentioned, it's really not a wrestling crowd. The matches that you put on are a little bit more comedy and a little bit funnier, and they have like the crazy like luchador matches where they're flying all over the place and just trying to entertain the crowd in a way that people that aren't familiar with wrestling can be entertained and can be exposed to it. And so it's really fun to work with a lot of the guys that I work with, at other places in more serious settings, to be able to go there with them and they're wrestling in costumes and, just being silly and having really fun matches. So I feel very lucky that I'm able to have those experience with them, and Lucha VaVOOM is unlike anything anyone has ever experienced. So if you're in town during the times that they run shows, they run them, I think, every couple months around some of the larger holidays, then I certainly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, next time I bring my ass to California, I'm definitely going to check out, Lucha VaVOOM, which I love that. So I got to make a note of that on my next California trip. Now, Scarlette, this is the part of the show where you got to put your thinking cap on. This is a question. I usually always stump people with this question. So we're going to go right to the
damn Ty. That's good.
Boom. So we always here on the show, I ask you a question, and you really got to think about this. So ready to hear it?
Ready.
All right. So I call you and her both definitely the two ring bosses of the day. Now you and AEW, Aubrey Edwards, you and her, I guess you can say AEW, don't matter, whatever promotion it is, you throw it in there. You and her cross paths behind stage. This is a segment, and you got to bust a promo. What do you think you and her would say to each other?
I have actually met Aubrey. I've been very lucky to have spent some time with her, to have done one of our Zoom classes with her. So my coach Jeremy was fabulous. Another thing that he would do on those Zoom classes is he would get referees that he was familiar with, and he would get them to come on and do a little like Q&A session with us and tell us about their experience. And they would actually go over one of their matches with us. And so one of our guests during our Zoom classes was Ref Aubrey. So I was super lucky to get to talk to her. And one of the things that I found most valuable about that conversation was getting to talk to her about like the female side of things, because it's kind of hard. There's not a whole lot of us female refs out there. We're starting to kind of come up a little bit more on the scene. There's more of us now, I think, than ever. But it's hard to kind of sometimes know like how you, like if you need to act differently in different ways. I think that as a female ref, I probably get away with a little bit more with the guys than some of the male refs do, as far as like getting in their face and stuff, because I sometimes I think that the dynamic of like me yelling at them is interesting, and can serve the match well type thing. So, and I think that if I were a male, then that dynamic would be changed a little bit, so just kind of getting to pick her brain about the different dynamics of situations like that and how that works with that male female type thing. I thought that was very interesting. Another great tip that she gave me, I'm not a makeup person by any means, as you can tell. And so she was able to give me some great makeup tips on how to make myself look show ready for when I get in the ring. So I think if we met each other backstage, to go back to your question, I wouldn't be able to say anything but thank you to her, and I hope that I would be able to have a chance to sit down and pick her brain again at some point.
Well, I want to say this, seriously from the heart, that I'm a fan of hers because, like you said, you are her, and I know there's other female referees out there, but I'm a fan of hers. Like, seriously, female referees, you are her like 1 and 2 because I've been studying what you've been doing, and you guys are really paving the way for up and coming aspiring female referees. So definitely credit to you and her for doing that. You're really opening a lot of doors, and I know you see that, and I know you're proud of that. So that's, applaud you for doing what you're doing, and Aubrey too.
Yeah, thank you. That I feel very honored to be even named anywhere close to the same category as her. So that's quite flattering. Thank you.
Now, Scarlette, I know you got a busy schedule, but as we wrap up, of course, this full packed episode of Off the Top Rope, I want to know too, because I know you got a busy schedule, and all your fans want to know, where can we see you next? Getting in people's faces and doing the 1, 2, 3, or DQing somebody.
Yeah, hopefully not DQing anybody. They should all follow the rules and listen to me when we're in there, right? But this week I actually have a very busy week of wrestling. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is going to be running at the Irvine Improv on Tuesday. So I will be there doing my referee thing. GCW is running at the Roxy in LA on Thursday. So that's also very exciting. And then Wrestling Pro Wrestling is running on Friday in Burbank. And then I have a couple other promotions that I'm doing on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to be all over the place this weekend, but I have some great shows coming up, and hopefully I will be coming to a city near you soon.
Like I said, you guys are branching out of California. Like I said, if you ever come to, like I said, upstate New York, it's cold. You got to bring your jacket. Upstate New York, where my studios are, like I said, definitely I'll be there, to support the ring boss. And most importantly, from 1 to 10, would you ever come back on Off the Top Rope again?
Oh, absolutely. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me chat a little bit about my passion of refereeing.
That's all it's about. You come on the show, you got the passion. I can see that. And that's why you're doing extravagant things that you are doing now. And of course, everybody, seriously, from the heart, this lady's doing big things in wrestling. Check her out, especially in California. And like she said, she's coming to a city near you. Definitely check out the one, the only. I call her the ring boss. I call her Hollywood. Scarlette Donovan was my live guest here on Off the Top Rope. Scarlette, thank you very much for being on the show. God bless you. And girl, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I will try my best.
This is your boy Ty Asbury with a really full packed episode of Off the Top Rope. As I always say, God bless. Be safe. Love yourself. I'm going to get the music rolling. We're out of here. Peace out.
The Ropes Media. Tyron Asbury. Yeah. Tyron Asbury.